What was this game, man? Argentina, Egypt. Wow. This was wow. Um, when I go to think about this game, you think of Egypt getting, two goals in this, and I will say that goal that they scored that was disallowed, awful. Absolutely terrible. Horrible, bad buns, no good. They deserve to have another goal in this for Egypt. But at the very least, you still had two. You were up 2-0 after 67 minutes. And, all the momentum in the world was in the favor of Egypt, right? Their counterattack was dangerous. Their defense they were playing was fantastic. They kept in structure. Their shape was fantastic. They were physical, mean, and they were really playing very, very, very well. For this game, they took advantage of moments. Their counterattack was just deadly. And anytime you'd see them on the, attack, you almost assume that a goal was coming because how many times did they score a goal off of that? Yeah, a couple. Um, One was, brought back. But I do think that, anytime you can give Argentina a bit of a gap, you know, the GOAT will strike. And he did. Where he had 2 goal contributions in a span of 4 minutes to immediately tie it up. And then Enzo Fernandez, he, finishes it off. And I think that this, game was just shocking. I mean, it's shocking when you think that Messi is still this good at this stage. At 39 years old, he's creating the most chances, most touches in the opposition box, an 8.7 match rating. I mean, it's crazy to think about. Now, I will say, Messi did miss a penalty, right? Whether or not that penalty was, given off of a, fair call, whatever. I'm not going to speculate on that. But I do think that Egypt had a chance. They did. I mean, Egypt had a chance. They took advantage of it, and who knows, right? Whether or not that quote unquote foul that they, had and then, score a goal off of the succeeding sequence. But I do think that, Egypt played this well, and I think I am a little bit concerned about, Argentina because this is 2 results now where it's, 3-2, and you're really, struggling at points in this. For this game, you struggled for 80 minutes. You struggled for 80 minutes against Egypt. Previous game, you allowed Cabo Verde to come back. Like, that's 2 times now, and I am a little bit concerned about Argentina. But I do think that they're going to be playing against a team who isn't that great in either Switzerland or Colombia. Because I don't think that they're the same, I don't think it's a France. I don't think it is going to be even a Belgium. I don't think it's going to be the same, caliber of team as, one of those, like, oh my goodness, they're an upper echelon caliber of team. But I mean, it's tough to argue with the fact that, they're still just so good. I mean, no one on this, Argentina side played poorly, really. I mean, I think Taliafico didn't play great. Martinez didn't play great. Alvarez didn't play great, but they all, worked well and they have the experience. And, they can come away in big moments of the victor, and that's exactly what happened here. Where this Egyptian side hasn't been to a World Cup in a while, or at least they've never been this far. I don't know exactly how many times they made the World Cup or anything like that, but I know that they aren't a frequent, member. And, watching this game, like, for a longest time, it almost felt like, all right, so when's the heartbreak coming? Like, that is the respect that I have, for Lionel Messi and for this entire, Argentinian side. And, looking at like Messi's career, the fact that he already has 21 goals, another assist that he added in the World Cup. I mean, he is legitimately putting on like one of the best displays that we've seen in his entire career. When this is probably maybe his last dance. Like, I don't know if he calls it here because, I mean, he is still one of the best players in the world. Still, even at this point. But I think that it's crazy watching this. Egypt, they really played well. I think they put on a bit of a blueprint here where, Argentina are susceptible to a counterattack. If you can frustrate them physicality wise, and you really make it difficult on that front three of Alvarez, Fernandez, and Messi, yeah, if you're able to neutralize them, That's a problem. But I do think that, Argentina's experience, their class, their quality, all of that is better than Egypt. Argentina was favored for a reason. Is this the result that I was expecting? I was expecting Argentina to win, but not in this fashion. And, there's a lot of pros and cons that you can come away from this game where, if you're Argentina, don't love that for 80 minutes you looked like you could be going home. But also you were dominating the momentum. You looked like the better team on paper. You were statistically were playing better. It's just that, you're really prone to counterattacks. The age is kind of showing a little bit here where they're not as fast as they were a few years ago. And you're able to, get free licks on them. Cabo Verde did the same thing where if you just play fast enough, you can beat up this Argentinian team. And I think that's where if you're Switzerland or Colombia, you got to know. Now, I do think that Switzerland, you know, in a physicality game, I don't love Switzerland as much as I do Colombia, simply from the fact that, common pool, you have to be very physical for it. I mean, all of those South American, teams, those tournaments and stuff get officiated much more, adjusting for a lot more physicality. So I do trust Colombia more in this case, but I also don't know, how to feel about Argentina going up against either of these two teams in Switzerland or Colombia, because they're kind of playing with their food. Like if you're telling me that they beat Colombia, or that they beat Cabo Verde and and Egypt by a combined 2 goals, I don't feel great about that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about anyone else. I don't think that that's great. You're barely beating teams when realistically you should be dominating. So I don't love that. I don't love that, Argentina is just barely getting by teams when they could be dominating, and that it's taking last minute, winning goals. But I also don't necessarily, I don't want to bash them for saying, you know what, when it comes to digging deep and finding a tough goal in tough moments, yes, you are getting those moments. So I don't know how to feel about this Argentinian side. I do think that, watching the Colombia Switzerland game will give me a much better assumption on who, not only will I know who's playing, but also how they'll match up, and what some of the weaknesses that can be exploited for both teams are. I do think that Switzerland is the better team than Colombia. I do think that they have a much better midfield than Colombia, though I could, be proven wrong based on tonight. But it's staggering how good Messi is, man. It's crazy watching him. It's just wild watching Lionel Messi, man. But just because the USA's World Cup is over doesn't mean you need to stop watching the World Cup. And that doesn't mean you need to stop watching World Cup content, right? I'm going to keep putting out some World Cup content. So make sure to go ahead and subscribe, as it's absolutely crucial to the channel. And once you're subscribed, you get notifications on whether or not I'm posting about the World Cup. But make sure to go ahead and subscribe. And this has been The Scoop with Coop. And until next time, so long, everybody.